Okay, it's 11 o'clock. Good morning, everyone. Thank you joining today's section. And today, this is a Saver at Home and Learn. I'm Pauline Lam, your 2020 co-chair, Education Committee Chair, co-chair this year. During the meeting, if you have any question, please enter it into the chat box. The speaker will answer you during the Q&A section. This meeting is being recorded and will be available on our YouTube channel, San Gabriel Valley Realtors. Now, that's Jonathan. Welcome, Jonathan, our Vice Chair of Education Committee, to introduce your speaker, Maria Howard. Jonathan, please.
Before I introduce Maria Howard, I think the Tony is here already. He's the third Maria Howard.
Okay, so yes, change him. There he is.
Before we transfer to Maria, I'm very happy that I can invite Maria to this Stay at Home and Learn. I have known Maria, I guess, for a few years. She's a lifesaver for me. Awesome person. I had many home warranty issues that she helped me resolve when my client is happy with her services as well. I'm very happy to introduce Maria Howard and Joe and Tony as well. So I'll toss the baton back to Maria. We will be constantly checking the chat box. If any questions, just put in the chat box. We will review them and ask the question since you guys are all muted. Anyway, Maria, you can start now.
Thank you, Jonathan, for that really nice welcome and feedback. I really enjoy what I do, and it always gives me great pleasure to be able to help my clients and their clients resolve problems, because I know sometimes things land in the gray area with home warranty, but we like to think out of the box to see how we can resolve so that the customer will go away somewhat satisfied. We don't want them to be unhappy with us. So first of all, I want to say thank you to everybody. Thank you for Jonathan for prompting me in, Pauline, everybody who's here on the call, everybody who's helped organize this. I'm really excited to have two of the colleagues that I work with very well, and that's Tony and Joe. They are my professionals in this industry, and they're the ones that I lean on for questions. And we've been presenting this class now for quite a while. And what we're going to do is go over the red flags that pertain to home inspection. And we're going to dive a little deeper on plumbing issues. And we're going to have them answer the questions, things that you should really do in your home inspection. And the reason for that is because some things get missed. And then when you call your home warranty company, you get denied. It's very frustrating. So we're going to try to help you eliminate those hiccups in a transaction. Now remember, when my job doesn't really begin until after close of escrow. You're married to me for a year after. We don't break up. We continue relating to one another as the course of the plan is still in effect. So let's start off. How many know what the #1 claim is? What would you say it is? You can unmute yourself and say what you think it is. What's the #1 claim?
No, sorry, Maria, they cannot unmute themselves. You probably do chat.
Okay, so the chat is, well, I'll just continue. So the #1 claim in home warranty is plumbing. Most people think it's HVAC systems. They think it's air conditioning, but in fact it isn't. It's plumbing. And plumbing is probably one of the things that gets missed a lot because we're looking at all the other systems and appliances in the home if it's working well. So we're going to ask our expert Joe on plumbing issues. We're going to go over those things. I have some questions lined up for Joe to help us understand what those are. So Joe, let's start off, which is normally the most asked question, pipe material. How many types are there?
There's many types. There's copper, there's polyurethane, there's galvanized pipe, and I'm referring to these as water pipe. The most concerning one you're going to want, well, the one that we see a lot in California is going to be galvanized in older homes. That's going to be the most concerning pipe there, because if the pipe is galvanized, chances are it's 50, 60 years old, maybe even older. And that's going to impact your water pressure. Also going to impact the potential for leaks to arise because the piping's age.
Okay. So in most older homes, like what is like the age limit on a home that you see those mostly in?
Mostly older homes in the 50s. So we could go 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. You will see galvanized pipe there. And given that we're in 2020, that could be a potential for a problem.
Gotcha. Yes. And okay, so let's talk about slab leaks. And I don't know, not all of you know this, but Old Republic does have an extended pipe leak, enhanced slab leak coverage on our plan. We go out underneath the house and we go outside of the main foundation. And it is a very important coverage to have, and many people don't get it because it's not included in all the coverages, but we can go over that later. So Joe, let's talk about slab leaks.
Yes.
Why would that be such an important factor? What do we need to do further?
Well, the biggest thing with the slab leak is that your piping is going to be underneath the concrete slab, and until you receive your water bill, chances are you won't know that you actually have a slab leak. So a month could pass, you could get an outrageous water bill, then you start to inquire and come to find out that you potentially have a slab leak. Then you have to have a plumber come on in and confirm that. And then typically what we do is we will present options. One would be rerouting the pipe that's in the slab versus fixing the pipe that's in the slab. The one thing with piping in the slab is if we open up the slab and repair a section, you still have a whole bunch of other pipes still there. So it's something that we present to the homeowner when we have that discussion.
Gotcha. And so because slab leaks are something you can't crawl under, right, Tony, on a home inspection, you can't go under.
I love slabs.
So since we're on that topic, Tony, what do you recommend in a home inspection? Again, Joe did say that you wouldn't notice there's a problem with your plumbing on a slab leak until like being in ownership and seeing your water bill probably gets higher because there is definitely a leak and your water bill goes up. During your home inspections, what could you call out during that time?
Well, the first thing I do when I start an inspection at any property is we'll typically locate the water meter. And we open up the water meter, and what most people don't know, in the water meter, you have the dial, and then you have a little tiny triangle usually at the water meter. And that little water meter, if there's any kind of water movement of any kind, it'll start spinning while you're using the water. So if there is a leak, that is probably the quickest way to see if there's water running. If you know that all the faucets are off in the house and you go to your water meter and you see that little triangle spinning, there's water flowing somewhere. Now, in most cases, we'll find toilets that aren't sealing properly and the toilet just continues to run its toilets. I've seen some sprinklers that cause that as well. The sprinkler control valves will start leaking. But in rare cases, you'll find, unfortunately, an underground pipe that's leaking. So that's the very first indicator. But the other indication is just older pipes, like Joe mentioned, older pipes. If I open up the faucet during my inspection, and the first thing I get is rust in the water, I know that that's an indication of older pipes, and then you look a little bit deeper for leaks.
Now, in your report, would you note some recommendations based on your inspection? Would you point that out on the report?
Yes. One of the things that we point out, and that most home inspectors point out, is the age of the different systems. The 5 major systems in your house are: number 1 is your roof, your plumbing, your heating and air conditioning, your electrical, and your foundation. So On all of those, we always point out the approximate age. In some cases, we can pinpoint exact age, like heating and air conditioning systems or water heaters. They'll typically have an exact date of when it was manufactured, so you'll know how old it is, and we'll point out, hey, it's towards the end of its useful life, and you should, even if we don't find anything as home inspectors during the inspection, you should consider replacing soon because it's past its useful life.
Yes, yes. Thank you for pointing that out. Okay, so Joe, we talked about slab material links. What about sewer conditions? What do you see in the plumbing world pertaining to sewer conditions?
The biggest thing that I see out there with sewers upon doing a camera inspection would be the clay pipe. It's been compromised and it'll have roots growing in through the joints. That's the biggest problem I see with sewer pipes. That right there is an indication of a failing sewer system. As a buyer, that's why I always recommend, as someone being a buyer, they should have a camera inspection performed so that they know the unknown before they get involved in a $500,000 investment.
Exactly. And that's one of the things that when I go around, when we were before COVID, in my classes, I would always recommend that as an additive due diligence on behalf of the selling agent and the buyer to be aware of. And again, we can't make anybody do these things, but buyer beware, and we should take those extra precautions if we have that opportunity. So, Tony, regarding sewer conditions, what part of the home inspection, when you're conducting that, do you see things that are notable to you right away on an inspection now that we're on sewer as opposed to the slab leak?
Yeah, one of the things that people ask me all the time is, should we get a sewer line inspection? And I'll typically point out to them, listen, if you have an old house, you very likely have clay pipes or cast iron in some places. So that's one consideration. Another consideration is the distance between the house and the street. If you have a long distance between the house and the street, over the years, the soil tends to settle. It settles unevenly sometimes, and that causes damage to the clay pipes. It causes them to disconnect sometimes, and Joe knows this. So I'll point those out, and then they can schedule or if there's any known facts already. If the seller says, hey, we just had it scoped, or we just had it rotor-rooted, that's a huge red flag. If they had it cleaned out recently, it was probably because it has an ongoing issue. So in that case, yeah, you definitely want to do that.
Yeah, and I think we had this on another class where you pointed out if there's trees that are.
Or trees, yes. If there's trees, oh yes. If there's trees in the front yard, that's a very good indication that you might have problems with roots coming into the sewer lines. But like I pointed out the last time, a little due diligence from the seller, or asking the seller as a realtor, you might want to ask the seller, or ask your home inspector like me when you get there. I've had a couple of instances where people have asked me if they needed a sewer line inspection because there's a big tree in the front yard. During my inspection, I came to realize that this was a corner lot, and the sewer actually came out the other side on the other street, not in the front yard. So in that case, I told them, no, you don't need I don't think that you need a sewer line inspection. Or sometimes if there's an alley in the back, there's an easement at the back of the property. A lot of times, I've had like 3 in the last week or so that they drain into the sewer line, which is located in the alley, not in the front of the street. And so in those cases, sometimes you don't need one. But yeah, if it does drain through a tree where there's a large old tree that has deep roots, there's a very good possibility they have some issues.
So Joe, now that we're on those sewer lines, what would you recommend maintenance-wise for a homeowner during the ownership of a house, if just to say hi, there is a tree in the yard, and one of the things that isn't covered in home warranty is lack of maintenance. So what would be a good recommendation to a homeowner to do once or twice a year just to make sure they don't have any big hiccups with plumbing?
Well, if there's roots in the system, my number one recommendation is going to be repairing of that. That'll prevent the system from clogging up, and it'll prevent the system from failing. Roots are a big factor because they're going to push the clay apart. They're going to create cracks in the clay. Once the clay cracks and collapses, you're in a whole different ballpark than you were prior to that. So if you have like a home with no inconsistencies in the sewer and you just want to make sure it stays clean, I would recommend once a year having a snake or hydrojetting done. But in the event that there's roots or anything to that, I would definitely recommend switching steps and shooting for the repair, the long-term solution.
Gotcha. Yeah. And I do actually have a little story real quickly. I did have a claim on the extended pipe leak coverage. One of my clients, right, like within a month after they moved in, they had a problem with the sewer. So they called over public, but most home warranty companies don't cover excavation. That's usually the responsibility of the homeowner. So they excavated, they went in, and sure enough, the pipe was a clay pipe, and it collapsed, and it wore out due to normal wear and tear. But here's the thing, our plan only has a limited coverage. It goes up to $1,000, and the extended pipe leak coverage outside of the foundation. So Overpublic gave them $1,000, but the sad part, the actual repair was $26,000. I've read an article once where the average homeowner doesn't even have an emergency account of $400 for those emergencies in their house. So I can't imagine what these people felt like, and probably terrible. But had they done sewer scoping, I think they would have noticed that you would have been able to see that, right, Joe?
Yes, that would have definitely given them peace of mind to know what they were going to get into prior to signing the papers.
Exactly. And you said something very important, peace of mind.
Yes.
Peace of mind is so important. So let's go, now that we've talked a little bit about the plumbing, slab leaks, sewer, camera, scoping. Let's talk about water heater, Joe. Let's talk about the age and condition, and educate us on water heaters.
Well, water heaters, there's the conventional, which is a tank water heater. Then there's tankless. I won't get into either one too much, but those are the two different types. They both provide hot water. Tankless will provide you unlimited hot water, whereas a tanked water heater will run out of hot water depending on the size. There are codes for the water heater per installation, such as earthquake strapping, shut-off valve on the cold side to shut down the system, shut-off valve for the gas appliance, what we call a sediment trap for the gas line to catch condensation or anything that goes through it, thermal expansion tank if necessary, being that they have a pressure regulator in the system. Those are a few things there.
So when, again, we talked about maintenance for plumbing, what would be the maintenance for a water heater so that a homeowner could take extra steps in caring for their water heater?
For a conventional tanked water heater, you're going to want to have it flushed once a year so that you could avoid the hard water scale build up inside of it. For tankless water heaters, it's going to be a little different. It's the same scenario or the same thought process, just a little different approach. We have to flush the system with a pump and with some solution. It cycles through it, cleans out the coils from within, but they both achieve the same results.
And what's the average lifespan of either both tankless and the regular water heaters?
Depending on the installation, where the regular water heater, the conventional water heater is installed, you could get anywhere from 10, 15 to 20 years. With tankless, from what I'm seeing, they last longer. And from the manufacturer that we deal with, I've been told they've seen up to 30-year lifespan.
Wow.
And keep in mind that that's with proper installation. Anybody could attempt to install something, but if it isn't installed properly, chances are the lifespan of that appliance isn't going to last.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. And again, maintenance everything. It's just like I have an old Camry, a 2011. I just had 201,000 miles on my car. But my car has been faithful and has not failed me because number one, I maintained it well. I do its oil changes. I do all the things that are recommended based on the mileage of the vehicle. So I'm not going to get hit with a big surprise that something's big and broken or let me be stranded somewhere. So that is really, really important. Maintenance is a very huge component of caring for your home. So Tony, now that we're on water heaters, let's talk about how you view them from a home inspection view. What are you looking for? What are the obvious red flags that you would call out on an inspection?
Joe touched on a very important topic, and that is whether it pertains to plumbing or heating and air conditioning or electrical work, is if it's installed properly.
Yes.
And this is why you want to, I know realtors hate it when us home inspectors put this on our reports and we say further evaluation by a licensed contractor. There's a reason why we put that there, is that you want it for your liability and for ours, you want to have a licensed individual doing any work that was recommended to your client. Because what happens is if your client has an issue, and we've had one recently, which Joe helped me out recently on a water heater, a client of mine had an issue, moved into the house. Gas company came to turn on the gas and they wouldn't turn it on because there was an issue with the water heater. So who's the first person you think she called? She called her realtor.
Yeah.
And then she called me. And so Joe was kind enough to go out there and take a look at it. And turns out it had nothing to do with my inspection, knock on wood.
Yes.
It was an internal problem with the water heater that couldn't be seen during the inspection. And she ended up unfortunately having to buy a new water heater. But she was happy. She was happy. So one of the things is, yeah, definitely proper installation. A very common thing that I see plumbing wise out there is when people switch over from a tank heater to a tankless water heater, where they don't upgrade the gas line. They leave the old gas line. Most older homes have a 1/2-inch gas line to the water heater. When you install a tankless water heater, you have to upgrade that gas line to a 3/4-inch gas line. And most people don't do that unless they have a licensed contractor. They don't do that. And then the water heater stops working. It doesn't work properly the way it's supposed to. And so I'll go and I'll call that out. And unfortunately, sometimes now they're left having to deal with replacing the gas line all the way out to the meter. And
Right.
it's an expensive thing, which, of course, during the home inspection, we'll pick that up. Or any licensed plumber will pick that up as well.
Right. Gotcha. Very good. Very good. So, Joe, anything other tidbits that you could recommend for plumbing as a due diligence recommendations, things that you see when you go out to repair these things, something that we can leave a little bit more?
Yeah, I wanted to kind of add to what Tony said in regard to undersized gas pipe for tankless. When that does happen, it works the appliance or the fixture harder than it should be worked. It has a certain demand of BTU, and what's happening is it's being starved from that, and it'll fire on, then it'll turn off, fire. So you'll get hot water intermittently, then you'll get cold water, then hot again. And what that's doing is just
in the middle of a shower.
It's just overworking the appliance. And then another thing as well is gallons per minute in a faucet. There's what's called an aerator on them, and that's to reduce the amount of water for water conservation, obviously. But sometimes if you go and you take that off, you have too much water coming out, and that'll also play a part in the way the tankless works. So it's kind of got to be fine-tuned.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And these all the things that these gentlemen are saying are the things that we get denials. Number one, home warranty is lack of maintenance, improper installation, and secondary damages. Lots of times, like with the tree roots outside of the main foundation, yes, we have the coverage, but if the failure arose because the tree disrupted the pipe to the sewer, that's not going to be covered. It has to be due to normal wear and tear. So there are exclusions on home warranties, and sometimes we do not look at the fine print. That's really, really important. And here's even better. If you have questions or reservations on coverage, that's where you have me. You call me up, I help you. Even if I don't have the home warranty and say you went with another company, but you wanted some help, I'm always available to help with those questions. I don't mind. I love helping people. So let me look at some of the questions that we have for Tony. We've been going back and forth, but Tony, let's talk about the things on HVAC systems on a home inspection. Tell us a little bit about like, how do you test for cold or hot? And is there a difference in the operational of a HVAC system? Now, we know there's 3 types, right, Tony?
Yes. Yeah. We have three different types. You have your standard HVAC system, where everybody's familiar with. You have your condenser sitting outside, the big fan, and then inside, either in your attic or a closet space, you have the furnace. Sometimes it's furnace only. Sometimes it has the evaporator, and you have the central heating and air conditioning. You have the mini split system, which has a little condenser outside, a smaller condenser outside, and then it's kind of like the ones that you see in the hotel. On the wall on top, it has the unit, and those are great for particular types of installations where it's difficult to get ductwork through an attic to a particular room. You can have one condenser serving up to 5 different sections of the house, and you install the fan inside each room and just run the refrigeration lines to each one of the rooms, and that serves the entire house. I see it a lot where you have like a mid-century modern that has high ceilings, doesn't have much of an attic space, has a flat roof. And people tend to use them like that. They're great little units. And then you have the regular wall unit that people use. But primarily, what we see is the heating and air conditioning with the condenser unit outside, and furnace, and the evaporator inside.
Yeah. When you're talking about the mini split system, we usually have those like in sunrooms, little additional add-ons to the house. Like you said, you can't run the ducting. Actually, my dentist has a very old office in Pasadena, and he has all of those in each of his rooms. So they're all room temp based on the size of the room. So it's kind of nice because you're not freezing. Yeah. So with HVAC system, one of the things that comes up in home warranty is the outside ones where the condenser is it the condenser coil that is like outside, and most, if you have pets, sometimes do stuff and it eats
the condenser unit outside, what I see typically, I've been doing this for 22 years now. I've inspected over 8,000 homes. If you have a dog, the dogs, for whatever reason, like peeing on the condenser units. I kid you not. It sounds really funny, but they do. They rub up against the condenser unit. They fill the fins up with hair. They'll scratch at it sometimes. It causes damage. The refrigeration lines that go from the condenser into the unit itself have foam insulation on them. And that's meant to keep the heat or the energy, I should say, from the refrigeration. And I won't get too technical on it, but the refrigeration lines go from hot to cold to hot to cold, hot to cold. So you don't lose any energy. And so pets tend to do a lot of damage to those things. And that's one of the things that unfortunately, when I see it, I'll call it out, but the condenser will continue working. It's just not working as efficiently as it should, but it is considered a pre-existing condition.
Yes.
So I get a call occasionally from a home warranty company because they're not looking to cover whatever the damage when this thing finally breaks down, because even though it was working fine when I was there doing the inspection, and I call out that the condenser had some pet damage on it. Once it breaks down, it's considered a pre-existing condition, and I'm sure you can take it from there.
Yeah, and it is. Number one, and it's part of secondary damages. It's just like, you know, people like in the fire areas, and the soot of the embers or whatever that is in the air accumulates on the air conditioning unit, and it clogs it up. Well, it didn't stop due to normal wear and tear. It stopped because something else caused it to fail. Just like the dog using the outside of the HVAC units. These are things that you have to be very mindful, and people don't think about that. And so it's really important. Now, Tony, you said that, like, would you note that in your home inspection? Would you point it out to the homeowner or to the agent saying, it's visible? What about holes too?
On the condensers, I don't see holes too much, to be honest with you. I'll see some scratch marks. I'll see some damage along the bottom. I do see a lot of, and I don't know how this plays out for home warranty, but I do see a lot of condensers outside that are really, really, really dirty.
Yes.
And it's part of regular maintenance. There's a good website. Anybody who wants to take a look on a good video on my website on how to clean or wash a condenser unit properly. So like anything else, it requires maintenance. The cleaner your condenser, if you haven't looked at it, take a look. The cleaner your condenser unit is, the more efficient it's going to work in the summertime when you're really putting a lot of demand on it.
Yeah, exactly. So let's talk about what changed this year. Remember at the beginning of January of 2020, prior to COVID, we had a change in the industry, our charging system. We went from R22 Freon, which is known as Freon, and we are now 410A, which is Puron. So educate us on the differences, and can you convert it? And if you can, which ones are, which ones aren't?
Yeah, absolutely. At the beginning of this year in January, they basically are phasing out R22 Freon gas. And so that leaves a lot of, thousands of units that are existing that the Freon is being phased out. Now, that's not meant to scare anybody. The Freon is still available, but it's recycled or reclaimed, quote unquote, reclaimed Freon gas. But it has tended to be quite a bit more expensive now because there's more demand and less supply. So the last time I checked, and I do have to go in and update my blog article. I updated it back in April with the current prices back then, but you're reaching close to 3 times as expensive right now for R22 than it used to be last year for maintenance. So I will point out on my report, hey, FYI, whether your unit was working good or not, you have R22, just keep in mind it's going to be a little bit harder or a little more expensive to maintain. It's an older unit. Some of the newer units can be converted to a new Freon system. The older ones, unfortunately, cannot. And there's no particular cutoff. There's different ways of doing it. Some of them you can convert, newer ones you can convert just to Freon. Some you have to replace the condenser altogether. So the best way to do it is to get an HVAC person out there to give you a service call and take a look at it. Yeah, some of the older ones eventually, and nobody really knows exactly when. Eventually, when R22 goes away completely, so those units are going to end up having to be replaced altogether. So I always pointed out on my report, I was like, hey, you know what, just keep this on your radar. Even if the unit was working fine when I was there and you're going to continue using it, just keep it on your radar that it's something that you're going to have to address at some point.
Yeah, and just so you know, some home warranty companies do charge per pound. So you make sure whoever you're selecting that you know what the coverage is if they have to recharge the unit or maybe drain it for repairs, what that cost will be. Because if they're only giving you $10 per pound, and we're talking an R22 unit, $150 to $200 per pound, and now of course supply on demand, then it could cost a homeowner up to $1,400 to recharge a unit. That's really important. One of the other things I wanted to touch on, there's different types of units and some are older than others. In today's uh, uh, units, we always recommend to get a 14 SEER above because of the efficiency if it runs. Is that correct, Tony? You see a lot of those.
I'm sorry, you're breaking up a little bit. I didn't catch that last part of that.
Okay, so the SEERs on the unit, is it like 14 is the more efficiency of a unit, a SEER 14?
Yeah. The higher the SEER number, the more efficient it is. Energy codes change on a regular basis. I'll be honest with you, it's hard to keep up with them. You know, everybody's going green, and so everybody's shooting to have more efficient, whether it's heating and air conditioning systems or water heaters, or everybody's going for high efficiency. So in this case, yes, a SEER rating, the higher the better.
Yeah, that's my understanding. So let's talk about Title 24 HERS testing. I know that's a requirement.
Yes, HERS testing. HERS testing is a requirement primarily for new installations. Basically, it's a leak test for your duct system. And the important thing to note is that whoever installed the heating and air conditioning system cannot do the HERS test. It has to be a third party, an independent party, to come in and do the HERS test after the unit has been installed. And so I see a lot of people get hung up that way as far as permits go. You know, they'll install the thing, call for inspection, and then the building inspector will tell them, nope, you still have to get your HERS. And sometimes what happens is that the homeowner will forget to get the HERS test, and now there's no final sign off on these things. So if there's an issue, I don't know, you can answer this, Maria, if there's an issue with the unit down the road, does that become a existing condition?
It just depends because, for example, if let's say they get a home warranty and the buyer moves in the week of 2 days after close of escrow, and they did the home inspection and everything went smoothly, everybody's happy, they're closing, they're excited, they're moving, they're packing, and they turn on the light switch for the very first time, or they plug in something that's electrical. Well, that would be a pre-existing condition. Number one, the homeowner hasn't really lived there. He's just now getting into the home. The homeowner that lived there before may or may not have had home warranty. So this could have failed during the ownership of the seller and not necessarily the buyer. So it's a really fine line to cross. But if a homeowner's been living there for 2 or 3, 4 years, 2 or 3, 4 months, and all of a sudden it stopped, it most likely won't be deemed a pre-existing. The buyer has been living there and it's been working for him. So it may have failed just in normal wear and tear, and it's going out. And one of the things that most people forget is that they forget that they have home warranty and they hire an outside contractor. They get the work done and they forgot to utilize the home warranty. Always comment every service, even when you're in doubt, thinking it's not going to be covered, call it in because you just don't know. So in the beginning, Joe, you mentioned the 5 things. I think it was Joe or Tony mentioned the 5 things regarding roof, the HVAC, the electrical, the plumbing. We've never really touched a lot on electrical. So let's talk a little bit about the electrical part on your home inspection. What are the things that would be a red flag? Because that's another big one, electricity.
Electricity, yes, that is. Other than plumbing, plumbing has to be. Yeah, you're right. Is probably the number one issue that we get. Whether it be a leaky faucet or sewer lines or water heater or something like that. Plumbing is typically top of my list while I'm out there. Electricity is probably number two. Particularly on older homes. On condominiums, townhomes, I very rarely find any major work done. Single family homes, particularly older single family homes. The San Gabriel Valley is just known for, you know, older homes, post-war, you know, 1940s, 50s, old homes where it's now changed ownership once or twice, and then maybe had a room addition, had some remodeling. It could be a do-it-yourself type of project, and sometimes I find some really nice ones, but sometimes I find some, you know, we have in the industry what we call "oh my God" moments. So we get an "oh my God" moment. I open up the electrical panel, it's like, wow, okay, where do I start? And so it poses a question to what we talked about with water heaters and plumbing work, which is bringing it up to code. And like water heaters, when you go install a tankless water heater, you have to bring certain things up to code so that it's installed properly. Well, the same thing is with electrical. Unfortunately, when I go do a home inspection, I don't know when the electrical work has been added into that panel or when the do-it-yourself work has been done. So we have to assume that everything should be brought up to today's codes. If it's an older original panel, then we will assume that it was installed to code back then. So in those situations, you know, you can't have somebody, and this is where people get confused with the word grandfathering. Grandfathering, the correct term is legal non-conforming, which means that if it was installed properly back in the day and it met code requirements then, you can't make somebody bring it up to today's codes if it's original. However, if the work that's been done, if there's been work done, that has to be brought up to code. New sub panels, new electrical wiring, new heating and air conditioning systems, and you know, new tankless water heaters, which, you know, need electrical as well. You know, all of that stuff has to be done to code, and so there's a little misunderstanding as far as misconception about code, because sometimes I'll do a home inspection and I'll call something out. Hey, there's a little bit of this going on in the electrical panel, and they'll bring in an electrical contractor, and the electrical contractor, oh, this is not up to code. This has to be brought up to code, so we need to replace the entire panel. Now, while that's the case sometimes, that's not always the case, because you have to ask that question again, is what code are we talking about? Were we talking about the code 20 years ago, or are we talking about the code today? Those are two completely different things.
Right, exactly. So I know we're going to pretty much getting close to wrapping, right, Jonathan? Are we pretty much close on time?
Yeah, we're getting close to on time, but I think there's a question myself has, and then I think there's
Some
another.
of those questions. Let's address those questions.
Yeah, I have a Nanette asking a question. What is the highest SEER, and what brand of AC have you witnessed to be stronger, and which are more problematic? Maybe that's something we can ask Joe. I'm sorry, Tony.
Yeah, the SEER ratings change on a regular basis. So if you go to 14, 16, you're in a good place. But you're also looking at almost a brand new system at that point. So if you're looking to replace a system or install a new system, the higher your SEER rating, the better. It's going to be more energy efficient. It'll probably be a little more expensive, so, you know, something to consider. But it'll be more efficient. It'll be more quiet. Some of the newer units are so incredibly quiet. It's sometimes I have to check them to make sure the air is flowing in the bedrooms or something like that. Which brands do I see? That's a good one. Rheem is a good manufacturer. Carrier is always a strong manufacturer. Those are probably, when I go do inspections, probably the ones that I see the least problems with. And like I said, I've done over 8,000 inspections, so probably the two brands that I see the least problem with. But like anything else, it's like your car. You know, I drive a Toyota. Some people drive a Mercedes. But my last Toyota lasted me 15 years. Why? Because I maintained it on a regular basis. I had 300,000 miles on that thing before I got rid of it.
Oh, goody, I have hope for mine.
So it's regular maintenance. I shouldn't say this because if everybody maintained things the way they're supposed to, I'd be out of a job.
Me too.
Yeah.
Actually, Tony, I'm in the
Yes.
process of shopping for a AC as well. There's one contractor came in with a brand, I think it's called, it's not Train?
Train, Trane.
Yes, correct. Is that a okay brand as well, or?
It's a pretty good brand. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a pretty good brand. They've been in existence for quite some time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
So there's a question in the chat box for Gary, right? Jonathan, you want to read that?
Yes. Would you recommending cutting down a tree next to a main drain sewer pipe outside to prevent root damage? I think we can either ask Tony or Joe.
I think this one's Joe's.
Okay, I'll take it. Well, cutting down the tree, if there's already roots in the sewer and you cut down the tree, you're kind of doing it backwards because the roots have already gotten into the pipe. So I would not only remove the tree, I would also address the issue at hand, the roots being in the pipe.
Okay. And Maria, I had a slab leak last year in my house. So I understand what slab leak is for the first time. It was a pretty extensive damage. I had to replace all my first floor floorings. I had a lot of new experience. And obviously I don't have home warranty for that. So I had to deal with my insurance, which I did. So it was a good experience for me. And I got to stay in a motel for a whole month.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the motel has the slowest internet speed ever.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, you know, right now, because we are pandemic and we are COVID, I just want to remind you that you can get a plan going forward on your home as long as everything is in good working condition, and we will be more than happy to give you a home warranty. You got to remember right now we're spending more time at home, so therefore if you're a family of 3 or 4 or more in a house, well, your electrical, your plumbing, your water is being used quite a lot. And so therefore take advantage and get a home warranty coverage. This helps you to minimize those costs if you can do that. So we put our information in the chat box. Tony, Joe, I know are always happy to take your calls, even if you're not using.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and it's what I tell everybody, and I mean this. I'm currently logging in from Lake Tahoe right now.
Yes,
I'm on vacation right now, but I wanted to join Maria because I think it's very important information. And I mean this, and I tell this to all my customers, but I want to offer it for the board because I am an affiliate with the West San Gabriel Valley Board. Anytime you have a question, don't hesitate. Give me a call. Whether it be electrical, heating, air conditioning, even if you're not using me for a home inspection. I'm a licensed contractor for 20 years. I've been doing inspections for 22 years. You know, I'm a certified construction inspector. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. And, you know, it doesn't cost anything. Phone calls are always free.
Questions are free.
Yes, exactly.
And it's the same thing for us. We have that open door policy. If you ever have any questions, feel free to call. text, however you want to reach out, and we'll get back to you.
Joe's really, really good at getting back to you, by the way.
Yes, actually, I've recommended Joe to many of my clients, and they've been very happy with this service. And that's why it's really important in your database that even though you're working with your buyers and sellers and you're building a database, you should have in your sphere a trust lawyer, a plumbing guy, a home inspector, a termite guy, electrical guy, a handyman, because these are the people, your trusted resources for when you need those services, you know who to call. And that's
And
so
don't forget, we also need Maria Howard as well in the team.
And of course, Maria, yes.
That's the most
can I
important.
ask you-
Thank
Tony
you.
and Joe, can I ask you one question each though? I have
Sure.
done a lot of inspection as an agent though, but I've never seen an inspector going out to the water meter to look at and see if there's a leak in the house.
Yeah, funny story. Many, many years ago, I was working construction and I was buying my house, and it was on a slab in Covina. And my brother gave me a card and said, "Hey, call this home inspector. This is who I use." And being cocky and a young, I said, "No, I don't need a home inspection. I know what I'm doing." Didn't get a home inspection. I kid you not. A week after I moved into the house, there was a hot water leak underneath the only bathroom. So this is a one bathroom place, and the leak was under the bathroom. We didn't want to break the concrete, but I ended up repiping my entire house a week after moving in. I had to tear out the entire bathroom, our only bathroom, right after moving in. That's how I learned my lesson many, many years ago. And that's what piqued my interest in home inspection. And I came to find out that if you go out to your meter, if you know that all your faucets are off, and you go out to your meter and you flip open the little thing on your meter, if that little dial is spinning, there's water flowing somewhere in your house. And you probably have a leak somewhere.
That's good to know. I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I have done a lot of inspection. Nobody has ever go to the
Yeah.
water meter. And
Yeah, no, that's the first thing we look at before we even go into a house, because that makes our job easier. Because if I see that spinning before I walk in a house, I know I'm going to be looking for a leak somewhere.
Okay. And then Joe,
Yes.
question for you. I know that when we do the due diligence, we seldom call a plumber to come check the property. I think probably what we have learned today, I think it's best that we get a plumber come check to see if there's any leak or any potential problem.
I would agree. To add to that, when you have an inspector like Tony, he's very good at what he does, and he will catch those things. There may be a thing or two that you may want to call the plumber in for to fine detail, but it's all, in my opinion, it's always the best process, because you're going to spend a couple $100 before you spend $500,000. So I mean, it only makes sense.
$500,000. You're buying a condo.
Who's buying a condo?
I have a question. It's asking, what is SPIN? So I don't know what SPIN is. A spin.
Where is it you're seeing it?
In the chat box.
Oh,
I'm not familiar with the term. I don't know what system are we talking about?
Kuzi Hamada, he asked, where is the spin? Can you elaborate?
Maybe,
Oh, where is the spin? Oh, I'm sorry. On the water meter.
yeah, I think that's what they meant.
On the water meter. Okay, when you open the water meter, some of them are digital, and it'll have a main number, but it'll always have a smaller number off to the side. Some of the older ones have a big dial on it, and then it'll have outside of that dial on the side somewhere is another little, either a triangle. It's either red or blue triangle, or something that looks like a star, and it's red or blue, and that's the one. If you see that little one moving, that means that there's water flowing somewhere. It's either a leaky toilet that the flapper on the toilet isn't sealing properly, or sprinklers that the valves aren't sealing properly now and they're allowing water. And you'll never see that because the water will actually end up in your backyard somewhere. So yeah, one of those things. If it's moving really fast and you know that your water faucets are off in the house, yeah, you've got a leak somewhere.
Well, thank you for all the good information provided today. Thank you, Maria.
You're
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Tony. It's greatly appreciated that you guys come here. I for some reason, I thought I knew a lot of stuff. Apparently, I don't. So I'm very grateful for the education that you provided today. Before we go offline, I would like to thank Maria and Joe, Tony for coming on to teach us what basically we're looking for. At the same time, want to make sure everybody know that they're on. Is it? I believe, Polly, is it this coming Thursday that we have the global for Taiwan?
Oh, yeah, thank you so much. I firstly also want to thank you, Maria, Joe, and Tony, for your wonderful and great sharing. You know, this is a lot of your knowledge and your experience. We thank you again. And a little announcement, we have several very good classes coming tomorrow, 11 o'clock. Reverse mortgage is Ryan Cleese will give us a speech and presentation. So register tomorrow, Wednesday, 11 o'clock. Thursday morning, 9 o'clock, Emma's breakfast meeting. Angelica come from Rosemead to update the ADU. It's a hot topic. And then Rosemead is a planning updates. Everyone need to join together. And the most wonderful one, Global Business Council bring you a nice section. We talk about Taiwan. Do you want to know what is Taiwan's recent real estate market trend? Friday, 5 o'clock, checking 450. We search some nice video to show you, and we have a great speaker from Taiwan. It's at his 8 a.m. in the morning. So he prepared a lot of information to share with. Let's fly together to Taiwan on Friday, 5 p.m. Okay? Is that a deal, right? Okay, we meet you tomorrow, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And thank you so much again. I want to thank Jonathan. The next meeting is August 18th, same 11 o'clock. Savor at home and learn. Jonathan will bring us another great speaker. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Question?
You guys have a great day. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you,
Bye.
Jonathan, Mario, Joe.